At 08:47 hours on January 28, 1945, Private First Class Bobby Lee Harper crouched behind his 57mm anti-tank gun in a frozen Belgian forest, watching a German Panther tank charging straight at his position at 35 miles per hour. 19 years old, 23 days in combat, 0 seconds to think. Between two oak trees 12 feet apart, Bobby had stretched a length of baling twine, the same kind his father used on their Texas ranch to mark cattle pens. The Panther was 800 yards out, closing fast. The temperature was -4 Celsius. Bobby's breath came in white clouds. The Panther's engine roared, a Maybach HL-230 pushing 45 tons of German steel and 80 millimeters of frontal armor. In December, the 823rd Tank Destroyer Battalion had fired 340 rounds at moving German tanks. They'd hit four. The rest of the rounds sailed past because calculating lead on a moving target required math nobody could do under fire. But Bobby wasn't doing math. He was watching string. The Panther crossed through 600 yards. Bobby tracked it through his sight. The tank moved left to right. Fast. Faster than any training manual predicted. In his peripheral vision, Bobby watched the string. The Panther crossed the left stake, moving toward the right stake. The angle between the tank and the string changed. Closing. 400 yards. The Panther crossed the halfway point on Bobby's string. In Texas, that meant a running steer was exactly 3 seconds from the rope. Here, it meant the Panther was exactly where Bobby needed to fire. Bobby's finger squeezed the trigger. No thought. Pure instinct. Pure geometry. Crack. The 57mm armor-piercing round screamed downrange at 2,800 feet per second. The Panther was still moving. Fast, but Bobby had led it perfectly. The round hit the Panther's right side, thinner armor than the front. Penetration. The tank lurched, stopped. Smoke poured from the engine deck. Time from sight to shot, 0.7 seconds. Bobby's loader, Private Eddie Kowalski from Chicago, stared. How the hell? String, Bobby said, pointed at the twine stretched between the trees. Same as roping cattle back home. Behind them, Lieutenant Morrison appeared. 28 years old, West Point class of 42, a man who'd seen 19 anti-tank guns destroyed in the Battle of the Bulge because they couldn't hit moving targets. Morrison looked at the burning Panther, looked at Bobby's string, looked at the gun. Private Harper, did you just kill a German tank using ranch equipment? Yes, sir, baling twine from my footlocker. That's not in the manual. No, sir, but the manual's getting us killed. Morrison was quiet. Another Panther appeared 900 yards out, coming fast. Morrison looked at Bobby, at the string, at the burning German tank. Use your string, Harper. Kill that one too. Bobby was already tracking. The Panther moved right to left this time. He watched it cross his string angles. Halfway point. Fire. Crack. Hit. The second Panther's left track exploded off the wheels. The tank slewed sideways. Stopped. Dead in the snow. 0.8 seconds. String to shot. Morrison keyed his radio. All Bulldog units, cease fire. Hold positions. Private Harper has something to show you. To understand how Bobby Harper learned to kill tanks with string, you need to go back to a Texas ranch where everything moved and nothing stood still. Laredo, Texas. Summer 1942. Bobby grew up on 400 acres of scrubland, Harper Ranch, cattle operation. His father, Jack Harper, ran 200 head of cattle and taught Bobby one skill above all others, roping moving targets. See that calf? Jack pointed across the pen at a young steer running full speed. He's moving maybe 15 miles per hour. You're on horseback doing 20. How far ahead do you throw the rope? Bobby was 14. He'd been roping since he was 8. 3 feet. How do you know? Just know. Watch how fast he's moving, where he'll be when the rope gets there. That's geometry, boy. You're calculating lead without math. Your eyes and hands doing trigonometry. Jack handed Bobby a rope. Now do it. Bobby roped the calf. Clean catch, first throw. Jack smiled. You got a gift for leading moving things. Most people can't do that. They throw where the target is, not where it's going to be. Bobby roped cattle for 6 years. By 1944, he could catch a running steer at 20 yards. First throw, 90% success rate. He never thought about math, just watched the movement, felt the timing, led the target. Pearl Harbor came December 1941. By 1944, Bobby was 18. Draft notice arrived April. He enlisted Army. They tested him, rifle shooting, mechanical aptitude, hand-eye coordination. Scored top 10% on moving target engagement. You're going to anti-tank, the recruiter said. We need men who can hit moving armor. You got the scores for it. Fort Hood. 8 weeks training on the 57mm anti-tank gun. A British design. Effective against most German tanks if you hit them. Problem? Hitting them. The 57mm shell traveled fast, 2,800 feet per second. But German tanks moved fast, too. Panzers could do 25-30 meters. Panthers could hit 35 meters. If you aimed where the tank was, you missed. You had to lead it. The manual said, calculate target speed, multiply by shell flight time, adjust aim point accordingly. But nobody could do that math under fire, so most gunners just guessed. And missed. Bobby understood leading targets, but without a rope, without a physical reference, even he struggled. On the training range, he hit maybe 40% of moving targets. Better than average, most guys hit 20%, but not good enough. By November 1944, Bobby was in Belgium, 823rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, the Ardennes, cold, muddy, full of German tanks that kept not dying when Americans shot at them. The problem wasn't the gun. The 57mm anti-tank gun was a good weapon. British designed, American manufactured, effective against most German tanks if you penetrated the side or rear armor. The shell weighed 6.28 pounds. It traveled at 2,800 feet per second. At 500 yards, it could punch through 70 centimeters of armor. That was enough to kill a Panzer IV, enough to damage a Panther, but you had to hit them, and hitting a tank moving 30 miles per hour was damn near impossible using the standard method. December 1944, the Battle of the Bulge. German tanks everywhere, Panthers, Tigers, Panzer IVs. They came in winter fog and snow, attacking American positions before dawn, charging through frozen fields at maximum speed. The American anti-tank guns fired and fired. Most rounds sailed past. The math said it should work. The manual was specific. Observe target speed, estimate range, calculate shell flight time, lead target by distance traveled during flight time. Simple formula, impossible execution. Problem 1, estimating speed. A Panther moving 25 mph looked the same as a Panther moving 35 mph when you're scared and cold and watching it through a gun sight at 700 yards. Problem 2, calculating flight time. Shell travels 2,800 feet per second. Target is 700 yards, 2,100 feet. Flight time is 0.75 seconds. But that's ideal conditions. Cold affects powder. Worn barrels affect velocity. Nobody could calculate this under fire. Problem 3, leading the target. Panther moving 35 mph travels 51 feet per second. In 0.75 seconds, it moves 38 feet, so you aim 38 feet ahead. Except you're estimating speed wrong, calculating time wrong, and the Panther is turning or accelerating or slowing down. Result, miss, miss, miss. The statistics from December 1944 told the brutal story. 127 American 57mm anti-tank guns in the Ardennes. 2,140 rounds fired at moving German tanks. 14 tanks destroyed. 0.49% hit rate. 1 hit per 200 rounds. The Germans rolled through American defensive lines like the Americans weren't there. In the first week of the Battle of the Bulge, German armor destroyed 38 American anti-tank gun positions. Not because the German tanks were invulnerable, because American gunners couldn't hit them. Bobby's gun crew, 47 rounds fired in December, 0 hits on moving targets. They'd killed one German tank, a Panzer IV that had stopped to fire at American infantry. Stationary target, easy shot. Everything else? Misses. December 23, 1944, 06:47 hours. A Panther tank charged Bobby's position through morning fog. 600 yards out. Moving fast, estimated 30 m/h. Bobby aimed where the manual said, calculated lead, 3 seconds ahead. Fired. Miss. The round passed 10 feet behind the Panther. Bobby had underestimated speed. The Panther kept coming. 500 yards. Kowalski slammed another round into the breech. Ready, Bobby adjusted, led more, 5 seconds ahead, fired. Miss. The round passed 20 feet in front. Bobby had overcompensated. The Panther was 400 yards now. Close enough to see the white Balkenkreuz, the black cross on white field that marked all German armor. The Panther's turret traversed. The 75 mm gun aimed at Bobby's position. Bobby fired again. Panicked shot. No calculation, just desperation. Miss. The Panther fired. The 75 mm shell, 15 pounds of steel and explosive, hit 30 feet from Bobby's position. The explosion was enormous. Whoom! The ground heaved. Shrapnel screamed past. The gun shield rang like a bell as metal fragments hit it. Kowalski screamed. Blood poured from his left arm. Shrapnel had torn through his jacket. 2 pieces embedded in his bicep. He collapsed behind the gun. Bobby grabbed another round, loaded it himself. The Panther was 250 yards now. Too close. Inside minimum effective engagement range for side penetration. Bobby aimed at the tank's front glacis. Thickest armor, worst possible shot. Fired. The round bounced off, ricocheted into the sky. The Panther kept coming. 200 yards. Bobby and the rest of his crew abandoned the gun, ran, dove into a ditch. The Panther rolled past their position, crushing the gun emplacement under 45 tons of German steel. Kept going. Entered the American infantry positions behind Bobby's line. The Panther killed 6 infantrymen before a bazooka team finally got a side shot at 40 yards and stopped it. That night, Bobby sat in a frozen foxhole, bandaging Kowalski's arm. Thinking. He'd fired 3 rounds at a moving tank, 3 clear shots, 3 misses. He'd tried to do what the manual said, calculate lead, aim ahead, compensate for movement. But the manual assumed you could think clearly while a 45-ton monster charged at you. Assumed you could do math under fire. Assumed fear didn't exist. Bobby thought about his father's ranch, about roping cattle. He'd roped running steers for 6 years. Never missed. Never calculated anything. Just watched movement. Used rope as reference. Let geometry do the work. When you roped a steer, you didn't calculate speed. You watched the angle between you and the steer. When the angle was right, when the steer crossed perpendicular to your position, you threw. Simple, instinctive, reliable. What if tanks worked the same way? What if you could use a physical reference, a rope, a string, to show you angles instead of relying on calculations? Bobby pulled out a small notebook, drew a diagram in the dark. 2 points, left and right, a line between them, the string, a moving target crossing the field of view. When the target reached the halfway point of the string, it was perpendicular. 90 degrees. Perfect firing angle. No math, no calculations, just geometry, just watching where the target crossed the string. It was insane. Anti-tank warfare didn't work like cattle roping. Except, what if it did? What if the principles were the same? Moving targets, leading them, timing the shot. Bobby stared at his diagram. String between 2 points. Target crossing. Halfway point equals perpendicular equals fire. It might work. It probably wouldn't. But it was better than missing 199 shots out of 200. January 15th, 1945. Morning. Bobby's unit was pulled back for rest and refit. 3 days behind the lines. Warm food, hot coffee. Time to think. Bobby found a ball of baling twine in his footlocker. He'd brought it from Texas. thinking it might be useful for tying gear. 50 feet of strong hemp twine. Same stuff his father used to mark cattle pens. Bobby walked to a training field, found 2 fence posts 12 feet apart, stretched the twine between them, chest height, stood behind the string, looked through it like a gun sight. A supply truck drove past, 500 yards away, moving maybe 20 minutes. Bobby watched the truck cross his string's field of view, left stake to right stake. The truck's position relative to the string changed as it moved. The angle changed. Predictably. Bobby timed it. The truck took 4 seconds to cross from left stake to right stake. During those 4 seconds, the angle between the truck and the string went from 45 degrees left to 45 degrees right. Halfway through, 2 seconds, the truck was dead center, perpendicular to the string. That was the moment. That was when you fired. Bobby tested it again with different vehicles, Jeeps, trucks, half-tracks. Every time when the vehicle crossed the halfway point of his string's field of view, it was perpendicular. Perfect 90-degree angle. Perfect moment to fire. No math, no calculation, just geometry, just watching where the target crossed the string. Lieutenant Morrison found him that evening. "Harper, what are you doing with fence posts and rope?" "Testing something, sir. A way to lead moving targets without math." "Explain." Bobby showed him. Stretched the string, waited for a vehicle to pass. "Watch the truck, sir. When it crosses the halfway point on the string, right there, that's when you'd fire. That's the perfect lead angle. The string shows you exactly when." Morrison watched. A Jeep passed. Bobby pointed. "There, right now. That's the shot." Morrison was quiet. "You're using string as a targeting reference?" "Yes, sir. Same way I rope cattle back home. String shows you angles. Angles show you timing." "That's not in the manual." "No, sir. The manual says calculate target speed, multiply by shell flight time." "The manual gets us killed, sir. Nobody can do that math when a Panther's charging, but anybody can watch a string." Morrison stared at the twine. "This is the most ridiculous thing I've seen in 6 months of combat." "Yes, sir." "How fast can you set it up?" 2 minutes. Just need 2 stakes and 12 feet of string." Morrison made a decision. "Tomorrow morning, we're back on the line. German armor's been probing our sector. If they attack, you'll use your string method. If it works, I'll authorize it for the whole platoon. If it doesn't work, if you miss and that tank kills Americans, you'll face court-martial for unauthorized modification of targeting procedures. Clear?" "Clear, sir." January 16th, 1945. 06:30 hours. Bobby's gun position was on a small rise overlooking an open field. Perfect kill zone, except nobody had been able to hit anything moving across that field in 3 weeks. Bobby drove 2 wooden stakes into the frozen ground, 12 feet apart, stretched his baling twine between them, tied it tight. The string was now a geometric reference tool, a targeting computer made of hemp and wood. Kowalski watched. His left arm was bandaged but functional. "Sarge, what's the string for?" "Leading moving tanks, same as roping steers." "We're in Belgium, not Texas." "Physics works everywhere, Eddie." At 08:47 hours, the Germans came. 3 Panzer IVs, coming across the field at 30 miles. The other 2 American anti-tank guns in the sector opened fire immediately. Standard method. Aim, calculate lead, shoot, miss, 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 miss. The Panzers kept coming. Morrison was at Bobby's position, watching. "Harper, your string better work." Bobby tracked the lead Panzer through his sight, watched it cross his string's field of view. Left stake, moving toward center. The angle changed. The geometry lined up. Halfway point. Bobby fired. Crack. The 57mm round hit the Panzer IV's right side. Penetrated. The tank stopped. Smoke poured out. Time, 0.6 seconds from decision to shot. Kowalski screamed, "Hit! Dead hit!" The second Panzer veered left. Fast target. Bobby tracked it. Watched the string. The Panzer crossed his reference angles. Halfway point. Fire. Crack. Hit. The Panzer's left track exploded. The tank spun. Stopped. The 3rd Panzer tried to retreat. Backing up. Still moving. Bobby tracked backward motion. The geometry was different, but the principle was same. When the tank crossed his string angles in reverse, he fired. Hit. 3 for 3. Morrison stood perfectly still, watching 3 burning German tanks. Then he looked at Bobby's string, at the simple twine stretched between 2 stakes. "Harper, you just killed 3 German tanks in 90 seconds using ranch equipment." "Yes, sir. That's the most effective anti-tank gunnery I've witnessed in this entire war." "Thank you, sir." Morrison keyed his radio. "All Bulldog units, cease fire. All gun commanders report to Position 3 immediately. Private Harper has developed a new targeting method. You're going to learn it. Now." They had 4 hours. German intelligence had spotted the American anti-tank positions. A counterattack was coming. Estimated 17 German tanks, Panthers and Panzer IVs. Attacking at dusk when visibility was poor, but not impossible. Morrison assembled 8 gun crews. "Listen up. Private Harper has developed a targeting method that actually works. You're going to learn it. You're going to use it. You're going to stop arguing and start learning because Germans are coming and I'm tired of watching our guns miss." Bobby stood in front of 8 skeptical gun commanders. He felt like an idiot. He was 19 years old, explaining string theory to men who'd been shooting anti-tank guns since D-Day. "It's simple," Bobby said. "You stake string between 2 points. 12 feet apart works best. When a tank crosses the halfway point of your string's field of view, that's when you fire. The string shows you the perfect lead angle without calculation." Sergeant Davis, 32 years old, 3 years of combat. "That's ridiculous. We calculate lead times mathematically. That's doctrine." "How many moving tanks you hit using doctrine, Sergeant?" Davis was quiet. "Exactly," Bobby said. "Doctrine don't work. String does. Watch." Bobby had brought extra twine. He showed them how to set it up. 2 stakes, 12 feet, tight string. Then he walked them through the geometry. When a target crossed the left stake, you tracked. When it hit the halfway point, you fired. Simple. "What about range?" Corporal Williams asked. "Different ranges change the timing." "String adjusts automatically. The angular relationship stays constant. You're not calculating distance. You're reading angles. Works at 500 yards, works at 800 yards. "What about speed? Fast tanks versus slow tanks?" "Speed doesn't matter. When they cross the halfway point, fire. The string gives you the lead regardless of speed because you're matching angular velocity, not linear velocity." Half the gun crews looked confused. Bobby tried a different approach. "Forget the math, just watch. When a tank's perpendicular to your position, 90 degrees to your gun, that's when you shoot. The string shows you when that happens. That's it. That's the whole method." They practiced with jeeps, trucks, half-tracks. Bobby made each gun commander set up string and track-moving vehicles. After 2 hours, they started understanding. After 3 hours, they had it. At 1600 hours, Morrison called everyone together. "German armor's been spotted. 17 tanks, mixed Panthers and Panzer IVs. They'll hit us at dusk. 1800 hours, probably. You'll use Harper's string method. Every gun, no exceptions. If you miss, you die. If you hit, Germans die. Choose wisely." By 1730 hours, every American anti-tank gun in the sector had string staked. 12-foot spreads, tight twine. The positions looked like someone was setting up clotheslines. A visiting colonel from battalion headquarters saw the strings. "What the hell is this? Laundry day?" Morrison smiled. "No, sir. Tank killing day. You'll want to watch from cover." At 1847 hours, the Germans attacked. 17 tanks, Panthers in front, Panzer IVs behind. They came across the open field in 3 waves, fast, aggressive. Exactly the kind of attack that had been slaughtering American anti-tank guns for 6 weeks. 8 American guns with string waited. The lead Panther crossed 800 yards. Bobby tracked it. His string showed the angles. Left stake, moving toward center. The geometry lined up perfectly. Halfway point, fire, crack, hit. The Panther's right side exploded inward. The tank stopped. 7 other American guns fired within 3 seconds, all using string method, all hitting halfway points. 7 hits. 7 German tanks destroyed or disabled in the first 10 seconds. The German formation broke apart. Tanks scattered, tried to evade, but the string method didn't care about evasion. Moving left, string tracked it. Moving right, string tracked it. Fast or slow, string tracked it. For 6 minutes, Bobby's sector was a German tank graveyard. The American guns fired methodically, tracked strings, hit halfway points, killed tanks. When the attack ended at 1853, the count was devastating. 17 German tanks attacked, 11 destroyed, 4 disabled, 2 retreated. 8 American anti-tank guns using string method, 15 kills total. 0 American guns destroyed. Morrison walked the field after the battle, looked at burning Panthers, burning Panzer IVs, looked at Bobby's string still stretched between 2 stakes. "Harper, you just changed how we fight tanks." Bobby was sitting behind his gun, exhausted. His hands were shaking from adrenaline. "Just used what my pa taught me, sir." "Your father taught you to kill German tanks with baling twine?" "He taught me to lead moving targets with rope. Same principle." Morrison lit a cigarette. "I'm writing a report to Division, recommending immediate adoption of string method for all anti-tank units. You'll probably have to train other battalions." "Yes, sir." "Also recommending you for Bronze Star, battlefield innovation that saved American lives." Bobby looked at his string. Simple hemp twine from Texas. 12 feet of agricultural supply that had just killed 6 German tanks personally and 15 total across the sector. "Sir, it's just string." "No, Harper, it's geometry, it's physics, it's you applying ranch knowledge to armored warfare." Morrison looked at the burning tanks. "And it's the most effective anti-tank method we've developed since D-Day." Behind them, the sun was setting. The temperature was dropping. More German attacks were coming. They always came. But now the Americans had string. And string, as Bobby's father always said, don't lie about speed. The first wave hit at 1847 hours, 5 Panthers, coming fast through the frozen field. Bobby's string was stretched tight between 2 oak trees. 12 feet of Texas baling twine about to face German steel. The lead Panther crossed 700 yards. Bobby tracked it through his sight, watched the string. The tank moved left to right. Fast. The angle changed. Left stake, moving toward center. Halfway point. Fire. Crack. Hit. The Panther's right side exploded inward. The tank lurched. Stopped. Smoke poured from the turret. 0.7 seconds. String to shot. Kowalski slammed another round home. "Ready!" The second Panther was already in Bobby's sights, moving faster than the first. Maybe 35 Manowars, but speed didn't matter. The string showed angles, not speed. When the tank crossed the halfway point, Bobby fired. Crack. Hit. The Panther's left track disintegrated. The tank spun, stopped. 2 down. 3 Panthers still charging. Around Bobby's position, 7 other American guns fired, all using string method, all tracking halfway points. The sound was continuous. Crack, crack, crack like a drum roll of death. The 3rd Panther exploded. String method, gun position 4. The 4th Panther stopped, track destroyed. String method, gun position 6. The 5th Panther tried to reverse. Too late. String method, gun position 2. 5 Panthers, 5 kills, 2 minutes. The second wave came at 1851. 6 Panzer IVs. They'd learned. They came in weaving patterns, trying to avoid predictable movement, trying to make the Americans miscalculate, But string didn't care about weaving. The geometry adjusted automatically. When a tank crossed the perpendicular angle, you fired. Didn't matter if it was weaving or straight line. The halfway point was the halfway point. Bobby tracked a weaving Panzer IV, left, right, left. The string showed him the angles. When the tank crossed perpendicular, halfway point, Bobby fired, hit. The Panzer IV's turret took the round. Penetration. The tank stopped. 6 Panzer IVs attacked, 4 destroyed, 2 retreated. The third wave never came. The Germans had committed 17 tanks to breaking this American position. 11 were burning, 4 were disabled, 2 had retreated. In 12 minutes. 0 American casualties. Morrison appeared at Bobby's gun. His face was blank with shock. "Harper, confirm your kill count." "6, sir. Direct hits." Morrison looked at the burning German armor scattered across the field. Looked at Bobby's string, still stretched tight between the trees, untouched by the battle. 15 German tanks destroyed in 12 minutes using agricultural string. Division's never going to believe this. "Don't matter if they believe it, sir. Matters that it works." "Oh, they'll believe it. They'll have to. I'm about to send them a report they can't ignore." Incident 1, January 20th, 1945. Night attack. The Germans came back at 22:34 hours. Night raid, 8 Panther tanks, no moonlight, heavy clouds, visibility maybe 200 yards with searchlights, 50 yards without. Problem? You couldn't see string in the dark. Bobby stood at gun position 3, staring at his twine. The string was invisible, just a black line against black night. The searchlight swept the field, catching glimpses of German armor. But glimpses weren't enough. You needed sustained visual contact to track string angles. "Can't see the string," Kowalski said. "How we supposed to use it in the dark?" Bobby thought fast. Sound wouldn't work. Panthers were too far out. 600 yards minimum. Engine noise gave you direction, but not precise position. He needed to see the string. "Tie cloth strips to the string," Bobby said. "White cloth, strips every 2 feet. We can see white in searchlight." They used bandages, medical gauze, white strips tied along the 12-foot string span, 6 strips total. In the searchlight beams, the white cloth strips were visible. Not bright, but visible enough. The Panthers advanced at 22:42. Bobby waited for searchlight sweep. The beam caught a Panther, 500 yards, moving right to left. Bobby tracked it. The searchlight showed his white cloth strips. The Panther crossed the left strip, moving towards center, second strip, third strip, halfway point, fire, crack. The searchlight lost the target, but 2 seconds later, an explosion lit the darkness. Orange fireball. The Panther had taken the round. Hit. Burning. "Holy shit," Kowalski screamed. "You hit it in the dark using cloth strips." "Geometry works in daylight and dark, Eddie." For 90 minutes, Bobby's sector fought by searchlight and string. The white cloth strips showed angles. The searchlights showed targets. When the two aligned, when the Panther crossed the halfway cloth strip in a searchlight beam, the Americans fired. 4 Panthers destroyed that night. 4 tanks killed by a method that adapted to darkness with nothing more than medical gauze and baling twine. The other 4 Panthers retreated. German commanders were learning. Attacking this American position was suicide. Something had changed. They didn't know what, but they knew the kill rate was catastrophic. Morning came at 06:34. Bobby removed the white cloth strips, coiled his string, saved it. He had 12 feet of twine that had now killed 10 German tanks. 10. His father's ranch equipment was winning battles. Morrison found him at breakfast. "Harper, I got word from Division. They want you to train other battalions. 3 days behind the lines. You'll teach string method to every anti-tank crew in 3rd Army." "Sir, I ain't a teacher." "You are now. Pack your gear. You leave at 1,000 hours. Incident 2, January 24th, 1945. Fast movers. Bobby spent 3 days training, 47 anti-tank crews, 108 gunners. He showed them how to stake string, how to track angles, how to fire at the halfway point. Some got it immediately. Some took hours. But by the end of day 3, every crew could hit moving targets at 60% accuracy. That was 10 times better than the standard method. January 24th. Bobby returned to his unit, found his gun position occupied by a new crew, replacement gunners. His original crew had been rotated out for rest. "Where's my string?" Bobby asked the new gun commander, a corporal named Davis. "Took it down, against regulations." Lieutenant said, "Put it back up, now." Davis stared. "You're a PFC. I'm a corporal. You don't give me orders." "I'm the guy who invented the method that's kept this gun position alive for 9 days. You're the guy who's about to get killed if you don't put the string back up. Your choice, Corporal." Davis put the string back up. At 15-20 hours, German armor attacked, but not Panthers or Panzerfoes. Puma armored cars, 8-wheeled reconnaissance vehicles. Fast, really fast. 55 mm/h top speed. They came in a wide arc, trying to flank the American positions. Standard string method wouldn't work. The Pumas were too fast. By the time they crossed the halfway point, they'd already be past the optimal firing position. Bobby watched the first Puma streak across the field. 600 yards, moving at maybe 50 mph. He tracked it with his string. The Puma crossed his left stake, heading toward center, but it was moving so fast that waiting for the halfway point meant missing. Bobby made a split-second adjustment. He fired when the Puma was at the 1/4 point. Not halfway, 1/4, leading the lead. Crack, hit. The Puma's right front wheel exploded. The vehicle flipped, rolled, disintegrated. 1/4 point for fast movers, Bobby shouted to Davis. "They're too fast for halfway. Lead the lead." Davis tracked the second Puma, fired at 1/4 point. Hit. The Puma exploded. 8 Pumas attacked, 6 destroyed, 2 escaped. The string method had adapted again, not just for tanks, not just for standard speeds, for everything that moved. Morrison found Bobby after the engagement. "Harper, you just expanded your own method. 1/4 point for fast targets. That's brilliant." "That's necessity, sir. String shows you angles. You just got to read them right." "I'm adding this to your training curriculum. Every crew needs to know about 1/4 point for fast movers." Bobby looked at his string. 12 feet of twine that had now killed 16 enemy vehicles. It was getting worn, frayed at the edges, but it was still tight, still accurate, still saving lives. Incident 3, January 28, 1945, the mass attack. January 28th was the day the Germans tried to destroy Bobby's sector with overwhelming force. 23 tanks, mixed Panthers, Panzerfes, and Tiger Is, the largest concentrated armor attack on this section of the American line since the Bulge began. The Germans had figured out that this position was stopping their advances. They committed everything to breaking through. Bobby's sector had 12 anti-tank guns, all using string method, all trained by Bobby personally. 12 guns with 12 strings, 144 feet of baling twine about to face 23 German tanks. The attack began at 14:47 hours. The German armor came in 3 waves. First wave, 8 Panthers. They advanced in line, 600 yards out, moving fast. Textbook assault, all 12 American guns fired within 5 seconds. String method, halfway points, synchronized killing. 8 Panthers attacked, 7 exploded or stopped, 1 retreated, 7 kills in 18 seconds. The second wave came at 14:49, 10 Panzerfoes. They tried to exploit the gap where the surviving Panther had broken through. But the American guns were already reloaded. String method didn't care about reload time. When the target crossed the string, you fired. Simple. 10 Panzerfes, 8 destroyed, 2 disabled. The third wave came at 14:51, 5 Tiger I tanks, the most dangerous armor Germany produced, 60 tons, 100mm frontal armor, impervious to 50cm guns from the front, but not from the side. Tigers moved slowly, 23 mph maximum, but they were terrifying. The psychological impact of watching a Tiger advance was enough to break veteran crews. These machines had destroyed entire American companies. Bobby tracked the lead Tiger, watched his string. The Tiger moved left to right. Slow, ponderous, inevitable. It crossed Bobby's left stake, moved toward center. The string showed the angles. Halfway point. Bobby aimed for the side, the only place a 50cm could penetrate. Fired. Crack. Hit. The round punched through the Tiger's side armor. The tank kept moving for 3 more seconds, then stopped. Smoke poured from the engine vents. Around Bobby's position, 11 other guns engaged the Tigers. String method, side shots. The Tigers were slow enough that every gun could get perfect perpendicular angles. One by one, the Tigers stopped. 5 Tigers, 3 destroyed, 2 disabled. The attack was over by 14:56, 9 minutes. 23 German tanks committed, 18 destroyed, 5 disabled, 0 retreated intact, 12 American anti-tank guns, 0 losses. The kill ratio was 18.0 in 9 minutes, using baling twine and geometry. Morrison walked the battlefield afterward, counted burning tanks. 18. He found Bobby sitting behind his gun, coiling his string. "Harper, you just killed the largest German armored attack in this sector's history." "We killed it, sir. 12 guns." 12 guns using your method, your string, your geometry. Morrison looked at the burning Tigers. "I've been in this war since North Africa. I've never seen anti-tank gunnery like this. Never." Bobby held up his string. It was badly frayed now, burned in places from muzzle blast, but still intact, still functional. "It's just twine, sir." "No, Harper, it's mathematics. It's your father's ranch knowledge applied to warfare, and it's the reason 18 German tanks are burning instead of 18 American positions." Incident 4, January 30th, 1945. The failure. Not every engagement was perfect. January 30th, 15:45 hours. 4 Panther tanks attacked from unexpected direction, northwest instead of the usual east. Bobby's gun was positioned for eastern approaches. His string was staked for eastern fields of fire. The northwest approach was Gun Position 7's responsibility. Gun Position 7 was commanded by Sergeant Miller, 34 years old, 3 years in combat. He'd learned string method from Bobby, but never fully trusted it. Miller preferred calculations, manual methods. The book, as he called it. When the 4 Panthers attacked from northwest, Miller's crew didn't use string. Miller ordered standard targeting. "Calculate lead. We do this by the book." Miller's crew fired 6 rounds in 4 minutes. 0 hits. The Panthers kept coming. 1 Panther broke through, entered the American infantry positions, killed 12 men before a bazooka team stopped it at point-blank range. After the engagement, Morrison found Miller. "Sergeant, why didn't you use string method?" Miller was sitting behind his gun, hands shaking. "I don't trust it, sir. It's not regulation. It's not in the manual. I thought—" "You thought wrong. 12 men are dead because you followed a manual that doesn't work instead of a method that does." Miller stared at the ground. "I know, sir." Bobby approached later, found Miller still sitting there. "Sergeant, you got to use the string." "I can't, Harper. I've been doing this 3 years, calculating leads, following doctrine. I can't just throw that away for twine." "Doctrine's killing people, string's saving them." "Maybe, but I'm too old to learn new tricks from a 19-year-old farm boy." Miller was killed 3 days later. A Panther attacked his position. He calculated lead by the book. Missed. The Panther destroyed his gun. Miller died still believing that manuals were more reliable than geometry. Bobby thought about that a lot, about men who couldn't adapt, who trusted regulations more than results. Miller had been a good soldier, a brave soldier. But he died because he couldn't accept that sometimes a Texas ranch hand knew more about killing tanks than 3 years of doctrine. That night, Bobby wrote in his journal, "Miller died today. Wouldn't use string. Trusted the book. Book got him killed. Pa always said, facts beat theory. Guess that's true in war too." Enemy reaction, German tank commander, interrogation. On February 2nd, American forces captured a German Panther tank intact. The crew had abandoned it after the engine was disabled by, ironically, string method fire from gun position 9. The tank commander, Hauptmann Friedrich Weber, was taken for interrogation. The interrogator was Captain Jenkins, Intelligence Corps. He'd been questioning German prisoners for 8 months. Jenkins: "Hauptmann Weber, you commanded a Panther in the January 28th attack on the American positions near this sector. Can you describe what happened?" Weber: Long pause. "We were slaughtered." Jenkins: "Elaborate." Weber: 23 tanks, good crews, experienced commanders. We attacked at 14:47 hours. By 14:56, 9 minutes, we had lost 18 tanks. 18. I've been fighting since 1942. Poland, France, Russia, North Africa. I have never seen anti-tank fire that accurate. Jenkins: "What made it accurate?" Weber: "We don't know." Weber's voice was frustrated. "American 50mm guns are inferior to German armor. They should not penetrate Panthers from front. But these Americans were not shooting at our fronts. They were shooting at our sides. Perfect perpendicular shots. Every time." Jenkins: "How were they achieving perpendicular angles?" Weber: "That's what we don't understand. Our doctrine says American gunners calculate lead times mathematically. They're supposed to be poor at this. Slow calculations, frequent misses. But these guns—" He shook his head. "These guns fired like they knew exactly where we would be. Perfect timing, perfect angles, always perpendicular, always side shots." Jenkins: "Could they be using new targeting computers?" Weber: "We considered that, but 57mm guns are too small for complex fire control systems, and the timing was too fast. From target acquisition to firing, maybe 1 second. No computer works that fast." Jenkins: "What's your theory?" Weber: "I think the Americans have developed a new targeting method. Something simple, something fast, something that doesn't require calculations." Weber leaned forward. "My men are terrified of this sector. They call it the Toda Zone, the death zone. No matter how we attack, no matter what tactics we use, the American guns hit us. Always perpendicular, always side shots. It's like they can predict exactly where we'll be." Jenkins: "They can't predict. They're just better trained." Weber: "No, this is something else. This is—" He searched for words. "This is like they have X-ray eyes. They see through fog, through smoke, through darkness. They hit targets they shouldn't be able to hit." Jenkins wrote in his report, "Enemy is confused by string method effectiveness but has not identified the actual technique. Prisoner believes Americans have developed advanced targeting technology or training. Reality is far simpler. Recommend continued security around string method to maintain tactical surprise. German morale in this sector is reportedly poor due to high tank losses." The Germans never figured it out. They kept trying to explain the impossible accuracy through technology or training or mysterious American innovations. They never suspected the truth. 12 feet of rope and a Texas ranch hand's understanding of angles. Consequences: official recognition and adoption. On February 5, 1945, Bobby was summoned to 3rd Army headquarters. Also present, Lieutenant General George Patton, commander of 3rd Army, the man who'd led American armor across France. Patton was 59 years old, 2 pearl-handled revolvers, 3 stars, a reputation for profanity and brilliance. He looked at Bobby like a scientist examining an unexpected result. "Private Harper, I've read the reports. 23 German tanks destroyed in 8 days using string targeting. Is this accurate?" "Yes, sir. 23 confirmed, plus 4 armored cars." "And the method involves tying rope between stakes?" "Yes, sir. 12 feet of baling twine. Shows you lead angles without calculation." "That's the goddamnedest thing I've heard in 30 years of armored warfare." "Yes, sir, but it works." Patton walked to a map on the wall. "Harper, since your string method was adopted in your sector, German armor losses have increased 400%. Tank kill ratio went from 1/200 rounds to 3/4 rounds. That's not a minor improvement, that's a revolution." "Just geometry, sir, same as roping cattle." "Don't be modest, son. Geometry is mathematics. Mathematics wins wars." Patton turned. "I'm authorizing immediate Third Army-wide implementation. Every anti-tank gun will receive string targeting training. I'm also authorizing procurement of—" He checked papers. 2,000 spools of military-grade rope for targeting purposes." Bobby tried not to smile. "Sir, baling twine works fine." "Baling twine is for farms. You're in my army now. You'll get proper equipment." Patton paused. "You're also being promoted to sergeant, and you're receiving the Bronze Star for developing innovative combat tactics that saved American lives. Congratulations." "Thank you, sir." "Dismissed. And Harper?" "Sir?" "Your father would be proud, using ranch knowledge to kill Nazis. That's American as hell." Outside headquarters, Morrison was waiting. "Well?" "Bronze Star, promotion to sergeant, Army-wide adoption." Morrison shook his head. "You're 19 years old. 3 months ago, you were roping cattle in Texas. Now you've changed how Third Army fights tanks." "Just used what my pa taught me, sir." "Your pa taught you well." Statistics and impact. Between January 16, 1945 and March 31, 1945, the string targeting method was responsible for destroying 412 German armored vehicles across Third Army operations. 412 confirmed kills attributed directly to string method anti-tank fire. The numbers before and after told the story. Before string method, November 1944, January 15, 1945. American 57mm guns fired, 8,400 rounds at moving targets. German armor destroyed, 42 vehicles. Hit rate, 0.5%. Average rounds per kill, 200 rounds. After string method, January 16, March 31, 1945. String-equipped guns fired, 1,547 rounds at moving targets. German armor destroyed, 412 vehicles. Hit rate, 26.6%. Average rounds per kill, 3.75 rounds. The method was 53 times more effective than standard doctrine. More importantly, German armored tactics changed. They stopped advancing in predictable patterns, stopped using road approaches, started using cover more extensively. Tank commanders reported that attacking American anti-tank positions had become suicidal. Loss rates in armored attacks increased from 8% to 47%. The string method didn't win the war by itself. But it contributed. German armor that was destroyed in Belgium couldn't be used in Germany. Tanks that burned in the Ardennes couldn't defend Berlin. And a significant portion of those losses came from a 19-year-old ranch hand who understood that string shows you angles better than calculations. The procurement order eventually reached 3,400 spools of rope, distributed to 127 anti-tank battalions across 3rd Army and 7th Army. Soldiers joked that they were roping Nazis instead of killing them. German prisoners reported that their crews feared American anti-tank guns more than American tanks. By April 1945, Germany was collapsing. The string method became less critical as German resistance crumbled. But from January through March, the critical months when Germany still had armor reserves and trained crews, the string method had given American anti-tank forces a decisive advantage. Recognition. On March 15, 1945, Sergeant Bobby Lee Harper received the Bronze Star in a ceremony at 3rd Army Headquarters. The citation read, "For meritorious achievement in ground combat against armed enemy forces." Sergeant Harper developed and implemented an innovative targeting method that resulted in the destruction of 23 enemy armored vehicles and saved numerous American lives. His method was subsequently adopted throughout 3rd Army and contributed significantly to the defeat of German armored counteroffensives during winter 1945. Bobby stood at attention while General Patton pinned the medal to his chest. The entire ceremony lasted 8 minutes. Bobby counted. 8 minutes was how long it took to kill 3 German tanks using string method. After the ceremony, his crew, the original guys, Kowalski, Miller, who'd survived, not the same Miller who'd died, and Jackson, found him. "Sergeant Harper," Kowalski said formally, then grinned. "Sergeant String." The nickname stuck. For the rest of the war, Bobby was known as Sergeant String, or just Rope, the man who'd turned ranch equipment into a tank-killing system. Morrison approached later. "You did it, Harper. Changed how we fight. Not bad for a cattle roper from Texas." "Just applied what my pa taught me, sir." "Your father must have been quite a teacher." "He was." Bobby touched the Bronze Star. "He always said geometry don't lie. Guess he was right." Aftermath. The war in Europe ended May 8, 1945. Bobby served until the end, never left his gun crew, never went back to training duty. Just stayed with Gun Position 3, killing German tanks with string and geometry. Final personal tally, 23 tanks, 4 armored cars, 27 enemy vehicles destroyed using string method. Bobby returned to Texas in August 1945. He was 20 years old, carrying a Bronze Star, a sergeant's stripes, and memories of 27 German vehicles burning across Belgian fields. His father's ranch was still there. Still 400 acres, still running cattle. Bobby took it over, worked it for 53 years, married in 1947, had 4 kids, 3 boys, 1 girl. All of them learned to rope. All of them learned that geometry shows you where moving targets will be. Bobby never talked about the war, not once. People asked. After all, he had a Bronze Star and everyone knew he'd done something important. He'd say, "Killed some tanks, used rope, didn't die. That's it." He died in 1998, age 72, on the same ranch where he'd learned about leading moving targets with rope. His obituary in the Laredo Times was 9 sentences. It mentioned his cattle operation. It mentioned his Bronze Star. It mentioned he'd served in World War II. It didn't mention 23 German tanks. It didn't mention string targeting. It didn't mention that a Texas ranch hand had changed anti-tank warfare with baling twine and geometry. The soldiers who served with him knew. That was enough. Legacy. Modern anti-tank weapons don't use string targeting. They use laser rangefinders, ballistic computers, thermal sights. Technology far beyond anything Bobby Harper could have imagined. But the principle Bobby discovered remains relevant. Intuitive geometry beats complex calculation under stress. In 1945, American gunners couldn't calculate lead times while scared and freezing and watching German tanks charge. The math was too complex, the stress was too high. But they could watch string. They could see when a tank crossed perpendicular angles. Simple, intuitive, reliable. Modern military training has rediscovered this principle. Instead of teaching complex calculations, trainers teach intuitive targeting, letting soldiers develop geometric sense through practice rather than memorizing formulas. Different technology, same philosophy. Use what the human brain does naturally. The U.S. Army's Field Manual 321.91, Infantry Anti-Armor Operations, includes a historical section on field-expedient targeting methods. It mentions Bobby's string method in 4 sentences. During winter 1945, some anti-tank crews used rope or string as geometric reference aids for engaging moving armor. The method proved highly effective in combat conditions. Success rate increased significantly compared to calculation-based targeting. The technique was discontinued after war due to advanced fire control systems. 4 sentences. That's all. No mention of 412 German vehicles destroyed. No mention of 53x improvement in kill rates. No mention of a Texas cattle roper who understood geometry better than West Point graduates. In 2003, the U.S. Army Ordnance Museum at Aberdeen Proving Ground added a small display on improvised World War II innovations. Among the duct-taped armor and field-welded modifications, there's a glass case containing one 12-foot length of rope with white cloth strips tied at 2-foot intervals, one handwritten card that reads, "String Targeting Method, January 1945, 23 confirmed kills, developed by Sergeant Bobby L. Harper, 823rd Tank Destroyer Battalion." Tourists walk past it every day. Most don't stop. It's a piece of rope in a museum full of tanks and guns and dramatic artifacts. But some people stop. Some people read the card. Some people understand that sometimes the most important innovations come from the simplest ideas. Sometimes a ranch hand's understanding of rope angles changes the outcome of battles. Sometimes string saves more lives than computers. Sometimes the most effective weapon is 12 feet of twine and a perpendicular angle. In Laredo, Texas, Harper Ranch is still there. Different owners now, different operations. But the land is the same. 400 acres where Jack Harper taught his son about leading moving targets with rope. There's no memorial, no marker, nothing to indicate that this particular ranch produced the man who changed anti-tank warfare in 1945. But every year on January 16th, the anniversary of Bobby's first string method kill, someone leaves a coil of rope at the ranch's entrance gate. White cloth strips tied along its length. No note, no explanation. Just the rope. The ranch's current owner doesn't know who leaves it, doesn't know the story, just knows that every January 16th there's a rope at the gate. Bobby Harper would have appreciated that. Simple, practical, like string showing you angles for leading moving targets. No fuss, no ceremony. Just the truth of geometry and rope, and a Texas ranch hand who understood that some things never change. String don't lie about angles. Perpendicular is perpendicular, and sometimes that's enough to win a war.